Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'm going to be making a slight defense of Jordan Peele here. I know this is not going to be the most popular way to view this, but I think that if everything is understood in context and if everything is understood in the grand scheme of things, it's going to make a lot more sense. So the reason why I stand by Jordan Peele's comments here where he said that he's not really wanting to cast white male leads, I think that if we understand that he's trying to basically make the point that none of us should be concerned with the race of the person being given a lead. Now, if that is what he's trying to do, then I say abso-freaking-lutely. Now, the problem that we have here is that we've got people like the people over the rap trying to say, oh, but, you know, the white culture and, you know, oh, no, it's just going to be... They make it way too political. I look at his comments and I say, all right, fine. Well, then if someone who is a white writer and white director says, I couldn't see myself, you know, casting black actors in my lead roles, I think that we should be able to look at it with the same type of, yeah, okay, fine. You're going to write the stories and you're going to put the people on screen that represent who you are and represent your vision of the characters that you have, and if that happens to be a white character, it happens to be a white character. If it happens to be a black character, it happens to be a black character. Here is the biggest problem that we have with all of this, though, is that all of us just get so triggered by all of this stuff that we end up just losing the reality. We end up losing what we should actually be talking about, which is that we should not care about what the race of the person in front of or behind the camera is. This is the problem with SJWism. This is the problem with the left in Hollywood, is that they are so obsessed with identity politics that when someone like Jordan Peele says this, and when someone like me or anyone else reacts to it, automatically it's, oh, you're a racist, you just can't take it, you can't stand the fact that there is a black man who is making films that usually weren't made for black people, etc. No. I could not care less about that. All I care about is Jordan Peele going to make a good movie? He made Get Out. Get Out was great. I loved it. Guess what had nothing to do with my love of the film? The fact that it was made by a black actor, you know, a black director and a black actor and a black, you know, everything. That does not matter to me, and doesn't matter to most people. If you look through the lens of race, if that is one of the ways that you judge things, if that's one of the ways that you judge people, I'm sorry, but that is a problem. I'm sorry, seriously, that's a problem. Whether you're viewing yourself or anyone else through the lens of race, I think that's very minimalistic. I think that's very, demeaning to the human person. I think it's demeaning to the value of the human person, because we are more than just the color of our skin. We are more than just our race. We are more than just our gender. We are more than just any of these things that society tries to, you know, pin on us. We are more than what Hollywood would like to limit us to being. You know, Hollywood would like it to be where, oh yeah, well, I recognize that I'm a white man and therefore I have privilege, and therefore if I have this type of white privilege, it means that I must do certain things in a certain way. But if someone is black, well, obviously that means historically that they've been treated poorly, and so therefore they should be treated a different way. The way I look at it, and the way that most other people in the world look at it, is saying, no, if you are a person, you know, Dr. Seuss had it so right so long ago. A person's a person no matter how small. A person's a person no matter who they are, is what I would say. If you are a person, if you are a human being, you have inherent human dignity. Sorry to get a little philosophical on you, but it is true. It does not matter what the color of your skin is. It does not matter what your gender is. And most people do not care about that. When I see Jordan Peele, you know what I see? I see a very talented writer and director. That's what I see. What society wants me to see, what Hollywood wants me to see is, no, you can't say that. You can't say you're colorblind. That is by definition sexist and racist. You can't possibly do that. Well, guess what? I just did, because it's true. He's a great writer and director, and guess what? He is a great writer and director apart and separated from his race. He may not think of it that way. He might think in certain ways. He might make movies in a certain way. And hey, he has the right to make whatever movies he wants to make. I have the right to see those movies or not to see those movies. And as long as he keeps on making great movies like Get Out, I'm going to continue to see them. I'm going to continue to support them. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to buy into this SJW garbage, this identity politics driven garbage that says that I must act a certain way, that I must like someone for a certain reason, that I must do anything that is purely based on race or on gender. So I look at articles like this with the headline, there's nothing wrong with Jordan Peele not wanting to cast white male leads, and I say absolutely, because he should be able to cast whoever the hell he wants, whatever race or gender that they happen to be. Why, just because he is a black man writing these stories, casting majority black actors, does it have to be assumed that therefore he is only going to be made for, and the stories are only going to be for black audiences? Even though he himself has gone on record to try and say that, you know, I have a very clear meaning and commentary I'm trying to strike with the film. I always wanted to design a film that was very personal for every individual. He makes film based on this quote for every person. He doesn't have a specific group in mind. Sure, he probably has his personal politics. Sure, he probably thinks a certain way. Sure, he probably voted a certain way. God knows I'm not saying that he's a Trump supporter. God knows I'm not saying that I'm not saying who he supports at all politically, because honestly, at the end of the day, I honestly don't know. I'm sure you could probably find an interview where he says something about somebody. I'm sure he said things about Trump. I'm sure he said things about Hillary. I'm sure he said things about a lot of people. But at the end of the day, what we have is a director, a writer who is very talented, has made one great film, has made seemingly another great film. I have not actually seen it yet. I really want to, because I've heard nothing but great things about it. But we have a media that's constantly trying to put us versus them. And that's what I don't like. And what's interesting to me is that apparently is the point of his movie. Now, of course, they're going to try and spin it to say, oh, it's only on one side. Oh, this is just talking about the Trump supporters. This is just talking about people who are anti-immigration, etc., even though most people are not anti-immigration, but anti-illegal immigration. But of course, that's an entirely different subject for an entirely different channel. But I really do think there's a lot of truth in the words that he says here, and I think it's something that we need to look at. He says this: on the broader stroke of things, this movie is about this country. And when I decided to write this movie, I was stricken by the fact we are in a time where we fear the other. Whether it is the mysterious invader we think is going to come and kill us, take our jobs, or the faction that we don't live near that voted a different way than us. We're all about pointing the finger, and I wanted to suggest that maybe the monster we really need to look at has our face. Maybe the evil is us. Notice how he says us, not them. Notice how he includes himself in this very topic. So he is writing a movie based in the premise that we are in such a toxic society from all sides. All sides. There is no innocent side. Unless someone is totally devoid of any of this nonsense, unless someone is totally trying to take themselves out of it, it's so hard not to get caught up into it. I can even myself say that there have been times when I've looked at someone and I've seen what they've said, and I've felt an anger. I've felt almost, I wouldn't say a hatred, but definitely a frustration. I think to myself, no, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'm a human person. They're a human person. I should see them for who they are. Now, does that mean that they could say dumb things and I can point those dumb things out? Absolutely. Have I pointed out things that Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy and Brie Larson and you name it have said? Absolutely. And I will continue to do that because I think it's important for us to be honest. I think it's important for us to kind of move past the crap. But what's interesting is that people on the left are going to take what he has said here and try to apply it only to people on the right, basically admitting to and falling into the same trap that he is warning against here. Notice how this ends, again from IndieWire. Without referencing President Trump supporters or the immigration debate, the political implications of Peele's statement made clear that us was meant to challenge both the left and right during these political fractious times. Notice how they say at the very end, oh, obviously it's talking about both sides of it, and yet he says Trump supporters, immigration debate. Why doesn't he say anything about Hillary supporters or the left and the right? It is indeed true. He's taking on both sides here, which is why overall I like his movies, because they're not just made for one audience. They're not just made for one political thought. I mean, Get Out had a lot of ways that you could view it. What I love about Jordan Peele as a writer, as a director, is that he's able to make a movie that on its own value, on its own face, can last. Get Out was a great thriller that can stand on its own. If you want to dive into the weeds, if you want to dive into what was the meaning behind this and that, and what was the commentary he was trying to say about race in our country, you can dive into that. You can also go into the movie and just enjoy it as a regular movie. And based on all the reviews that I'm reading and all based on the people that I've talked to who have seen us, it seems to be the case that it's the same way, where you can see it as a great thriller, as a great commentary, and also all these other things on top of that. But what bothers me the most is that Jordan Peele himself, who I think, based on this, seems like a pretty, common sense guy, head on his shoulders. Now, again, I'm sure there'll be people trying to point out things and other things he said and other things he's pointed out. But what I see here is a guy that's saying, hey, we live in a very divided country right now, which I'm sorry, look around. Look at the news. We do live in a divided country. And he's looking at this and he's trying to say, maybe it's not an us versus them, maybe it's an us. The name of the movie. Maybe is it indeed something that we need to look into ourselves and say, what are the things that I have an issue with? What are the problems that I have? And actually, to me, as a theology teacher, this actually points to a lot of what the teachings of Christ are about. Remember that he said, before you take the speck of sawdust out of your brother's eye, take care of the giant plank in your own. Fix yourself before you worry about fixing others. I try to live that way the best way that I can. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I'm a flawed individual. But I recognize the flaws that I have, and I do the very best that I can to try and fix them. And it seems like this movie is trying to at least get people to start to thinking, maybe it is that I am the enemy to myself. And how true that is. How often do we get in the way of ourselves? whether it's our, career path, whether it's our choices in life, the moral choices that we make, the business choices that we make. How often do we get in the way? How often do we put ourselves in the way of this? So that's why I'm actually defending Jordan Peele here when he says that, I don't think I could see myself casting black, or rather white actors in my lead roles. I would say, hey, that's fine. That's perfectly fine, because I'm sure there's more context to it than just that. But on the flip side of it, you have one side, and again, this is getting into this us versus them mentality again, but no one remembers the us, where one side is going to try and point out to say that, oh, but you can't do this from the other perspective. If Martin Scorsese was to come out tomorrow and say, I couldn't see myself putting a black actor in a lead role, some people would be like, oh my gosh, he's a racist. But I look at these comments and I try and take them, obviously as they are, and I try and say, okay, this is how society wants us to view them. This is how the world will view these comments, but how should we actually view them? I think every person who writes or directs should be able to say, I see myself putting people of, anyone. I see myself putting anyone into any role. But it's going to be up to me and what my vision is. And if someone's vision is in a certain community, well, then you're likely going to see more people from that community be represented on screen. That's just the way things work. What I don't like, and this is something that I really hope Jordan Peele maybe speaks out a little bit more against, is instead of just saying, I can't see myself, hiring and writing a story, or rather, writing a story with a white male as a lead, I would much rather him try and point out to try and say that, you know what, at the end of the day, I don't know why the race of the person that I choose matters. I'm going to write a story for a person that I have in my head, and if the person in my head fits this certain character and it has a certain race in mind, then that is the character that's going to be. And if someone else from another perspective has the same thing, they should be able to do so as well. And what should not happen, and this is the key, what should not happen is no society, no studio, no liberal progressive in Hollywood should at any point get involved in the creative process and say, no, you need more diversity in your movie, and so therefore you need to cast this in a certain way. Even though this character has been pre-established as a certain character of a certain race or background, we're going to change it because we need to be more inclusive. No, Jordan Peele has it right. If you want to rate stories, if you want to make stories, and you want to make characters that are based on your own experience, you do that. You're the one that has to do that. You're the one that has the power to do that. Jordan Peele, he started off with, Comedy Central, had a great Comedy Central show with his friend, Michael Key. And what they were able to do is they were able to build a fan base. He was able to build some money. And then he himself was able to start his own production company with the money that he made from that and build something from the ground up. To the point now where he has 2 films, both of which have been not only critically, but also by the audiences so well received, that are deep, that are different, that are unique. And we need more of that from all spectrums, politically. And that's the big one, politically. Unfortunately, it seems that we have just one political message that just gets put on repeat over and over and over again in Hollywood. We need more diversity there. But guess what? Not by force, but by people being given an opportunity to tell a story, to raise the money, to put it out there. So we need 2 things to happen. One, we need studios and giant executives to not try and stamp out an entire ideology, like a conservative or a right-wing ideology, whatever it is you want to call it. But at the same time, too, you should not force any person of any political background to act a certain way, to direct a certain way, to hire a certain way based on race or gender. That's, to me, I think, the deeper message here to what Jordan Peele is saying, and that's why I stand by what he says. What do you guys think? I'm sure many of you might disagree with me, but I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that I think that he is trying to do something here that is not really based in race necessarily, but rather in a deeper theological, or not theological, but deeper philosophical understanding. That if we keep on putting ourselves into this us versus them category, if we keep dividing ourselves by race, by gender, by political affiliation, if we continue to do this, we are going to continue to devolve as a society. And if we continue to devolve as a society, it's going to lead to utter chaos. But guess where it starts? Guess how that chaos stops? With us. Anyway, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people on one side or the other. I tried to just give it from my own perspective, try and give my own understanding of what I'm being seen here, and again, explain why I think that him saying that is in one way not problematic, and of course in the other way I can see where we would say, but it's not the way. This is not the reality. People who say the opposite. If a white actor or a white director was to say the opposite, they would have been run through the rails. And you're right, they would have. And I think that it's wrong to treat one person differently than the other. But also, when I look to what the person is saying, the one who just said those words, what he's saying about the culture in general, I think to myself, this is the kind of guy that we need making movies, because this is the kind of guy that hopefully maybe can start to move the discussion away from the us versus them and instead start to make us think about ourselves. instead. Anyway, that's my take on it. If you like this video, guys, smash the like button, give me a subscribe. Also, hit the bell because everyone knows that the YouTube notifications just do not work, let alone with live streams or videos. So it really would mean a lot to me. Also, if you like this content, please share it. Share it around. Spread the word. I think that we need more of this kind of content out there. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I really do. I believe in this channel. I believe what we do here. I believe what we cover here. And I'm proud of all the people that have become a part of this community. It's not just me here. There's an entire community supporting me. And it means so much to me. I've been going through such a rough time lately, and the fact that this community has stepped up to help me out, the fact that Laura Story just sent me a box of chocolates, because you never know what you're going to get, is amazing and means the absolute world to me. So thank you to Laura, and thank you to every Asgardian out there that's a part of this community. And I'm going to continue to do what I do. And I ask that you continue to support. Have a wonderful day, guys. And as always, God bless.